Eamon Javers has the details. Eamon, what can you tell us?
Kelly, there's a White House briefing going on right now, and Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary, just said that President Trump at 4 p.m. today will be signing new auto tariffs. That'll be in the Oval Office, and we may be able to see that live, or see tape playback of that, I should say. We'll get new details on exactly who's being tariffed and what the rates are and all of that later this afternoon. But this is something that the president telegraphed earlier in the week, suggesting that he would do auto tariffs, those so-called sectoral tariffs, before April 2nd, when he does the so-called reciprocal tariffs worldwide on countries that have tariffs on the United States. So you remember back over the weekend, Kelly, there was some question about whether or not the White House was backing off the idea of sectoral tariffs, even while keeping the reciprocal tariffs in place. Now the president signaling that no, he's very much going ahead, at least with the auto tariff piece of that. We'll get more detail on exactly where this is going to land, but we do expect now to see the president at 4 p.m., Kelly.
Eamon, curiously enough, or perhaps not, depending on your point of view, the U.S. major automakers, Stellantis included, are selling off on this.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting, I wouldn't be able to tell you why the market's reacting that way. Clearly, you've got both auto tariffs, but then you've also got, steel, other inputs into the auto industry which are being tariffed, and then the complexity of how often vehicles go back and forth across that border as they're being manufactured, parts going back and forth, incomplete vehicles going back and forth, how many times they have to pay the tariff, all of that still a little bit TBD, and I think for markets it's a head scratcher to figure out exactly who's going to be paying what.
Yeah, Eamon, I was talking to an official at a car company not too long ago. They were wondering about the extent to which the tariffs are stacked. That's the term that they use. Are you paying tariffs on tariffs if something goes across the border? And I assume, Eamon, we're talking about autos and auto parts, not just completed autos. So we're back to where we were about a month ago with the reprieve that was given. They said for a month or so, and now we're going to put them back on.
Yeah, I think that's right, Steve. And the history here of this second Trump term is that the tariffs have been stacked. One of the big questions when the president talked about tariffs on trading partners of Venezuela earlier this week, he talked about a 25% tariff that would go on anybody who was buying Venezuelan oil, for example. I asked the president on Monday, would that be on top of additional tariffs on those countries? He said yes. So in the case of China, that implies that next week we'll be looking at 45% tariffs on Chinese imports, because China does business with Venezuelan oil. Unless that situation somehow changes between now and next week, they're talking about, yes, stacking those tariffs one on top of the other. That's been their approach this entire time. We don't know if they're going to change that approach here, but clearly more detail to come.
Eamon, for now, thanks. We'll bring you back shortly. Eamon Javers.